Let's talk about eating dead people. Some groups around the world used to eat their own dead family members. Not from hunger, but because they thought the dead person's spirit needed a new home. And what better home than your stomach? Hallmark doesn't make a card for that. The Foray people of Papua New Guinea did this up until the 1960s. Yeah, recent enough that your parents might remember it. When someone died, the women and children would eat the body. They believed the spirit needed somewhere to go. When someone died, female family members would prepare the body, cut it up, cook it, pass it around the family. Brain tissue was the most valuable part, which should give you an idea of where this is going. They'd crack open the skull and scoop out the brain, often eating it raw. Would you like your uncle cooked rare or medium rare? It was basically Thanksgiving, except the turkey is your dad. The problem? Well, besides eating your sister, when you eat human brain tissue, you can get something called kuru. It's a brain disease that kills you. It's like mad cow disease for humans who ate other humans. First, you get shaky and lose your balance. Then you lose your memory and can't talk right. And here's the really weird part, you start laughing uncontrollably. They call it the laughing sickness. Picture someone dying while giggling like a maniac. Then they die. Usually within a year. No cure, no treatment. Between the 1920s and 1960s, kuru killed around 2,700 Foray people. At its peak in the late 1950s, it was the leading cause of death among Foray women. But they kept doing it because tradition. The government banned it in the 1960s. The last kuru case was in 2009. Someone who ate human flesh in the early 1960s finally died from it decades later. The disease can hide in your brain for over 50 years. Imagine eating your grandma's brain in 1955 and dropping dead from uncontrollable laughter in 2005. Wild. Sure, half the village is dead, but we can't just stop now. What would great-great-grandma think? Let's head over to Europe, where they had a fun little tradition in the world of opera. You know how hard it is to find a good soprano? Well, Italian opera people in the 1600s and 1700s had a solution that'll make you cross your legs. Just take young boys with beautiful voices and chop their balls off before puberty. Problem solved. Voice stays high forever. Sure, you've destroyed the kid's entire body development, but have you heard them sing? Beautiful! It started around 1550 and went on until the early 1900s. The Catholic Church banned women from singing in church, so they needed high voices. The solution? Cut up children. Boys as young as 7 or 8 would be picked based on how well they sang. Their families, usually poor, would agree hoping their son would become famous. Kind of like putting your kid on a reality TV show today, except way more permanent. Spoiler, most didn't make it big. They just ended up cut up and poor. The procedure was brutal, and I can already see some of you wincing. No pain medicine. The boy would be given drugs or choked until he passed out. Don't worry, honey, you'll wake up singing like an angel. Then a barber surgeon would make the cuts. About 80% survived. 1 in 5 boys died on the table. For opera. The most famous guy who got cut was Alessandro Moreschi, cut around 1865 at age 7 or 8. We have recordings of his voice from 1902. You can listen online if you want to feel uncomfortable. It's hauntingly beautiful and deeply sad. The body effects were bad. These guys never went through puberty, so they looked weird. Extra long arms and legs, no facial hair, super high voices. Many got fat. They couldn't have kids, and even though they were famous, people made fun of them. Hey, nice voice. Shame about the whole no balls thing. The Catholic Church banned it in 1870, though it kept happening secretly for years. The last known guy died in 1922. Hold on to your toes because we're heading to old China for one of history's longest-running torture traditions. And when I say long, I mean nearly 1,000 years. Foot binding was breaking young girls' feet and tying them so tight they'd never grow right. The goal? feet no longer than 3 to 4 inches. Nothing says pretty like broken stumps that smell like rotten flesh. Right up there with scented candle on the romance scale. It likely started in the 900s with rich women showing off they were too rich to walk, like the old Chinese version of crazy designer heels. It caught on like wildfire and lasted nearly 1,000 years. Girls as young as 4 to 6 would have it started. Their feet would be soaked to soften them up. Then the fun began. Toes curled under and tied tight against the bottom. The arch broken. Then, my favorite part, they'd make the girl walk on her freshly broken feet to set the bones. Can you imagine being 5 and having your own mother break your feet on purpose? Honey, hold still. Mommy's just going to snap all your bones real quick. The pain was crazy bad. Many girls passed out. Some died from infection. But mothers kept going because this is what good mothers did. The wraps would be changed every few days, each time pulling tighter. This went on for years. The feet would get huge blisters, sores full of pus, and rot. The smell was horrible. By the time they were grown up, women with bound feet couldn't walk more than a few hundred feet without help. They'd hobble along like a penguin that got in a fight with a lawnmower. The bones were totally messed up. X-rays looked like someone put feet in a vise and squeezed. And the kicker? Men thought this was attractive. The weird walk from broken feet was supposed to be hot. Ooh, baby, the way you can barely walk really gets me going. The practice was banned in 1912, but it didn't stop right away. In rural areas, mothers kept doing it into the 1930s and 40s. The last known woman with bound feet died in 2021 at age 107. Over 1 billion Chinese women had their feet bound over this tradition. 1,000 years of breaking little girls' feet. Ever been to a wedding where they say those vows about staying together until death? Well, in India, they took that way too seriously. Sati was the practice where widows would throw themselves onto their husband's funeral fire and burn alive. And I do mean throw, because sometimes they weren't exactly volunteering. The tradition goes back centuries, with written records from around 400 AD. The idea was that a wife's entire reason for living was her husband, so when he died, she should die too. You know, like when your phone dies and you just throw yourself in the garbage. It's kind of like that, but not really. When a husband died, his body would be placed on a huge pile of wood. The widow would climb on top dressed in her best wedding clothes. Would you like to burn alive today? No thanks. Too bad. Sometimes family members would help her onto the pile, and by help, I mean drag her kicking and screaming. The pile would be lit on fire, and the woman would burn alive. If she tried to escape, because, you know, fire hurts. A lot. People watching would use long bamboo poles to push her back in. Yep, special widow pokers. Imagine putting that on your resume. Job experience. Kept widows in fire. 1650 to 1655. One famous case was Rup Kanwar in 1987. Yeah, 1987. 1987. The year of I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. This 18-year-old woman died on her husband's funeral fire in Rajasthan. Thousands showed up to watch. The British banned Sati in 1829, but it kept happening in country areas for decades. Between 1947 and 1987, there were at least 40 written cases. Modern India has strict laws against it now, but cases still pop up. Let's wrap this up with a tradition that mixed religion, cruelty, and the worst legal system ever thought up. Trial by ordeal was used across old Europe, Africa, and Asia. The basic idea was super simple and super stupid. If you're accused of a crime and there's no proof, torture the accused and see if God saves them. If they survive, they're innocent. If they die, they were guilty anyway. Perfect legal system. There were several methods. Trial by fire was a classic. The accused would walk across hot coals barefoot, hold a burning hot iron bar, or stick their hand in boiling oil. Your Honor, I didn't steal that bread. Well, then you won't mind putting your hand in this pot of boiling oil, will you? Their wounds would be wrapped for 3 days. If the wounds were healing clean, God had blessed them and they were innocent. If infected or gross, they were guilty and would be killed. Here's the thing. In old times, literally every wound got infected. They didn't have medicine. They didn't have clean bandages. They didn't even wash their hands. So if you stuck your hand in boiling oil, it was going to be infected 3 days later. Trial by water had 2 equally crazy versions. In the cold water test, you'd be tied up and thrown into a river. If you sank, you were innocent, but probably drowned. If you floated, the water pushed you away because you were evil, so they'd pull you out and kill you. You following the logic? Sink and drown equals innocent. Float and live equals guilty and killed. Either way, you're dead. One written case from 1215 was about a woman accused of killing her husband. She had to carry a burning iron bar 9 steps. 3 days later, the wounds were gross and infected. She was declared guilty and hanged. Did she actually kill her husband? Nobody knows. But her hands were infected, and that was proof enough. The church banned trial by ordeal in 1215, saying priests could no longer help with it. The practice started dying out in Europe, but it kept going in parts of Africa and Asia for centuries. Well, there you have it. 5 traditions that make your family's weird holiday stuff look pretty good. If you enjoyed learning about humanity's greatest hits of terrible ideas, hit that subscribe button. And go watch this other video where we talk about more ways humans have messed up. I'll see you over there.